The cost of IT in business can be staggering. From hardware and software expenses to services like internet and phone, you don't need to spend a fortune on IT to succeed. If your organization spends more than $500 monthly on any service, or you're considering signing a long-term contract, IT Enabled can help you manage your technology and minimize your costs. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. IT Enabled, we're here to help.
Hi, I'm Tara Watson-Watkins, President and CEO of the Lufkin, Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Connect podcast, connecting business to the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Blake Pollino with BP Media Group.
So we're continuing our theme of mental health awareness this week. And this week we have Melanie Taylor, the CEO of the Burke Center. You've probably heard of it. You may not know the full depth that this organization goes through to make sure that everyone in our area, a huge area that we didn't even know about, is served for all of their mental health services.
Well, we're thrilled today to have Melanie Taylor. Melanie is the CEO of Burke, and we appreciate you being on today. Thank you for joining us.
For having me.
Yeah. So why don't you give a little bit of background history on yourself, and then we'll talk about Burke.
Okay. I have been with Burke it's for a long, long time. And I started out in direct care. I was a case manager for the folks with intellectual disabilities, and ended up getting into human resources and in the financial side. Got a couple of master's degree, my last one at A&M. And when Susan Rushin left, I was in a position that I applied for the job and was able to be honored to get the job of CEO. And that was in 19, right before COVID.
Oh, okay.
Oh, great.
Yes, 6 months before COVID hit.
Fun time to get into that.
It was a fun time.
So tell us about the Burke Center. I think a lot of people have heard of it. I think it's a familiar name for a lot of people, but people may not know the depth of all that you do. And I can imagine one of the busiest organizations around during this time. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Burke is a governmental entity. We're not a state entity, though. A lot of people think we're a state facility, but we're not. Back in 1963, the federal government passed the Community Mental Health Act. And that was actually the last piece of legislation that John F. Kennedy signed before he was assassinated.
Okay.
But funding challenges, the Vietnam War was going on, so the funding challenges, they just wasn't funded appropriately. And it wasn't until 65, a few years later, that Texas passed its own similar legislation, the Texas Community Mental Health Law in Texas. Burke wasn't established until 1974. And we are one of 39 community centers, so we cover all 254 counties a community center does. Burke covers 10 counties in Deep East Texas, and it's about 10,000 square miles, which is more than about 4 of our states in the United States in size. We serve about 15,000 people a year, and we employ 550 people across the 10 counties. We operate 40 facilities right now. And so we have the same challenges a lot of people have being in rural East Texas, just transportation, just spread out everywhere. And but our headquarters are here in Angelina County in Lufkin.
Awesome. So are you a state-funded facility? Is that how that works?
We get funding from the state. We are a unit of local government, and our county commissioners' courts appoint a citizen from their county to be on our board and serve as our board and our leadership and to set our policy.
Perfect. Okay.
So but we contract with
what type of services do you provide?
We provide services to people with intellectual disabilities, and that is the term that some people are more known as mental retardation. We don't use that term anymore. We try to use more people first language.
Sure.
And then we serve people with mental health issues, substance use issues, and children from birth to 3 with developmental disabilities.
Okay. I don't think I even realized.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
There were all of those services provided.
Yeah, our earliest childhood program is early childhood intervention, and these are babies basically that are born with potential developmental disabilities.
Right.
The doctor sees them and they think, man, there may be something that Burke can do. We can provide speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, nutritional services to help. Hopefully the baby, by the time they reach 3, they will be functioning at a normal level and may not even need services, sometimes not.
Right.
So, yes.
Can you give us a snapshot or an overview, if you will, of mental health in our region? I think it's pretty clear to most people that there is something of a mental health crisis going on, in the United States and the world, and we're certainly seeing an increase of that in our region. But from your point of view, can you kind of give us an overview of what the state of mental health is in our area?
Yeah, statistics show that there's 1 in 5 people in the United States with a mental health issue. We all either have someone in our family or we know someone with a mental health issue. It's just that prevalent.
Right.
Since COVID, post-COVID, we've seen about a 30% increase in mental health needs across our region, especially in the area of crisis. People they've always had mental illness, but people seem to be more sick. That's really not the medical term for it, but
Sure.
that's really the common term. If people are more sick, there's more people, and then the people that do have mental illness are sicker, it seems like, than before.
And why do you think that? We were just talking with Oceans Behavioral last week, and we were talking about the fact that people stayed home, and then they started almost, the mind games start. Well, I don't like myself. I don't like my job. I mean, is that the reason you think there's an uptick since COVID, or what are other reasons?
I think we're still researching that, but I do believe that, when you're at home and people have lost their jobs, people are worried about the future of their job, people are worried about our economy. Prices are going up and pay may not be going up. They're worried about their children. They're worried about their children in school. You hear about the mass shootings in the schools, and there's just there was a lot of time. There was a lot of people at home together. A lot more domestic abuse. That just people just isolated together, and a lot of those just became more prevalent, and it affects people's mental health.
Yeah, I don't think. And my husband and I have had this conversation, but when we were home for so long, and our daughter, who was in kindergarten at the time, we didn't realize how much it affected her to be at home and to not be able to play with friends and to do things until school started again and she could go back. And then all of a sudden, within a week's time, Britt and I both said, our child's back, and we didn't really even know she was missing. But her personality just began to flourish again because she, her imagination was used so much, and she got really quiet. And, just looking at that and not even really having, the knowledge of what I think was going on, but just to watch her as a small child flourish again when there were people around. Again.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The kids been at home. Adults been at home. A lot of our social life is work. Or just going to be able to go out to eat, or
right.
to church even. And during COVID, so much of that just stopped.
Gone.
And it was just our families within our homes, and we were watching the news all the time and nothing on the news was positive.
That's right.
And so you're just consistently worrying.
Yeah.
And then your kids are at home, and they may be with their siblings, but they're not with other friends. They're just not the same.
Yeah, not being stimulated.
And so, yes, it definitely can affect your mental health, and we've seen that.
Yeah.
So if someone feels the need, they have a mental health crisis, or if they need to utilize your services, how do they go about doing that?
We are open 5 days a week, and you can walk in and drop into any of our clinics. But if you think someone is in a crisis situation, there is a hotline number, and it's relatively new. Most people know about it now. Used to in the past, there were 1-800 numbers. Every center had a different one.
Right.
Well, now there is a 988 number that people can call. It's similar to 911. You call 911 when somebody's in a crisis, and usually it's a medical crisis or something like that. And the federal government, back several years ago, decided there needed to be something similar to address the mental health crisis in America that would be easy to remember and where people could get immediate access and information. And that now is 988.
Interesting.
And so that number really, it kind of still connects to our old 1-800 numbers, but it's just an easier number format for people to remember.
Absolutely.
I had no idea. I didn't even know that number existed. So this is if people are contemplating suicide, if they're in a mental health state of crisis that could
or if you just
affect
don't
them.
know.
Or if they don't know,
The biggest challenge is some people ask, how do I know for sure? How do I know someone's not saying anything?
Right.
Well, I hate to be a pessimist, but in this case, always assume the worst.
Right.
And assume that, ask the question. It's okay to be direct with people. People don't usually say, I'm going to kill myself. They say, my family wouldn't care if I was not around anymore. Or, I'm not worth anything. Why am I even here? There's things like that people say. And we just need to be attuned to that and ask the question, are you thinking about killing yourself? That's okay to ask.
Yeah.
And the more detailed a plan somebody has, the more likely they are to do it.
That's right.
Right.
And so that you can call that 988 number, and if you're not even sure, call that number. And there's qualified, certified counselors that answer the phone. It doesn't take the place of therapy, but they can give you advice and direct you on the right service.
And if someone needs your services, is there a cost to that? Do they have to provide that? Do they have to have insurance?
They do not have to have insurance. We do costing on ability to pay.
Okay.
So if someone's in a crisis, of course, we're going to serve you immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not going to do that. But if someone just comes in for intake, we're going to ask you to bring financial information in. And then the state, we do have a contract with the state to help pay for people that may not have any insurance or maybe even be underinsured. And they do an ability to pay, and it's a fee scale. And then we just collect on whatever that person can pay.
Okay.
Because
That's
70% of the people that we serve are adults have no insurance.
Right.
So,
So if you need help, you can get it.
right.
There's no reason
ability to pay has nothing to do with getting services.
That's right.
That's good. That's good to know. So if people need it, they
Yes.
can receive that help. And is that true for preventative? Can you get therapy at the Burke Center? Can you do that type of thing?
Most of our services are geared towards prevention.
Oh, great.
Somebody with a mental health issue, we try to prevent you from getting to that crisis state. And so the majority of what we do is centered around case management, which is coordinating within the community to maybe for housing, to get you the food you need. I mean, because there's so much more to it than just your mental health.
Sure.
You've got to have a place to live. You've got to know that you're going to have food to eat. And we have folks that coordinate that. And then we have counselors to provide therapy. And then we have psychiatrists. And so that we can, a lot of people need to be on medication. They need to actually see a psychiatrist. So we provide the whole array of services.
What do you see most often when people are coming in? Is it they're depressed, that they're suicidal? Is it what do you typically see?
Major depression is real common, but Burke tends to, our state contract with the state is geared toward serious mental illness, and that is bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or major depression.
Gotcha.
Now, we do see a lot of other diagnoses just because, we try to serve everyone that we can in our counties. And but yeah, major depression is very common, probably the most common, especially post-COVID.
Interesting.
Well, I just think it's amazing that you provide so many services, and I hope that those of you listening, that if you know of someone that is needing help, or you know a friend that has a new baby that is having some developmental issues, that you'll reach out to Burke and get some help, because we do have phenomenal services that are available for our residents and for family members. So.
Yes, and we have a website that's got all the information, and we even have frequently asked questions that people can get on there and find out. We try to answer everything on our website that we think people would ask.
Great.
And so that is at www.myburke.org. And you can get on there and probably find all you need to know.
That's great.
And we have a lot of links to different other outside resources also.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and for helping educate our community about the resources that are available.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show, and thank you so much again for listening this week. Please take advantage of these resources if you or a loved one or someone you know is in need. And we thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week, and we will see you next week.